Hello, and welcome to the Wild Blue Podcast, perspectives on aviation lives, lifestyles, and business.
Hi, and welcome to the Wild Blue Podcast. I'm Chris Kirk, Wild Blue Aircraft Sales, and as usual, joined here by Todd Mitten, and we're always blessed to have Todd in our presence. Welcome, Todd.
Well, good morning, Chris. I'm always happy to make time to visit with you.
Yes, and I know, because you're a very interesting man. So we have Erica Kirk, who is my wife with Wild Blue Properties. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And Will Mace with Aviation Property Network.
Morning, guys. Thank you.
So we have an opportunity. Will is in town. We have an opportunity to talk a little bit about what Will's business is, and not only just with the Aviation Property Network, but how he has been integrally. How do you say that word, Todd?
Integrally.
And I'll just leave it at that. I won't George Bush it anymore. Involved with aviation properties and development therein. So. Will, welcome. It's good to have you. And let me just give a quick shout out real quick before I forget of thanking Atlantic Aviation here at the downtown airport in Kansas City. And specifically Ben Moore, the facility manager, for graciously allowing us to use this as our podcast studio of sorts. So, but again, Will, thanks for joining us. And if you would just maybe give us a little bit of a background on who you are and what you do.
Oh boy. Okay. So I'm with Aviation Property Network, as you mentioned. Our headquarters are Denver, Colorado. We've got several, as we like to say, legs to the stool. We are all things aviation real estate across the country. We offer services on development, feasibility studies, lease analysis, sales, everything that relates to a facility at an airfield. Generally on the business and general aviation side, but our expertise is facilitating a client's or operators or flight department's needs with a location. And that's where Erica Kirk comes in as a broker. She handles our Kansas and Missouri transactions, and happy to have her on our team. But we focus everything real estate at an airfield.
So who are you say the business end of things, who are your primary customers?
It's a broad stroke. We have MROs, FBOs, the top 5-6 FBOs we deal with at one level or capacity, from helping them into a new location, understanding what the lease rates, whether it's transient, long-term, design, facility design, entitlements, placing tenants. So we put it out across our national network. One of the things that we're very proud of, or that I'm proud of, is our network that we've established. Our leadership has over 120 years of collective experience in business and general aviation. That's substantial. And so with that comes these relationships that we can tie into. And as I was mentioning before we started, it's all about filling the needs of the client, listening to what their needs are, understanding whether we can help them meet that objective, but it's our role to facilitate that and bridge that gap, and understanding what their objective is. And I think we do a very good job of that. And it's all relationships. That's exactly what it is.
Can you give us a little history of how Aviation Property Network came into being?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So it started back in 2012. Actually, it was through Ivor Retram, one of the partners. It was created out of pain. He worked for a master developer in Colorado. Took over a ground lease of a substantial area of land at an airfield. Needed to develop. The goal was to develop it, and in order to develop it, you've got to have tenants that are willing to pay. You've got to bring in tenants. You've got to let them know no different than any other development. But there was no platform to market these properties on, or this development on, across the nation. So he created what was called Hangar Network, and that worked very well. It probably surpassed any expectations. And then going forward or moving forward as the space, the aviation real estate space expanded and grew and more demand. There's more planes in the air over the last 5 years. So through that growth and the need, what we decided to do was Hangar Network was the name in and of itself was really just kind of boxing it in too much.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to be broad because our services are broad.
Mm-hmm.
We don't advertise everything that we do, but we help in a lot of ways. And so expanding that, changing that name from Hangar Network to Aviation Property Network, APN, that now allows us a broader reach for really the clients that we are looking for and looking to help.
If there is an adversary almost in this, I hesitate to use that word, but is the struggle a lot with government, local, county, state government, all in dealing with, like, I would think a lot of what goes on is working with leases or things like that. Do you deal a lot with government entities in what you're doing, or is it not?
Yeah, we'll deal with the municipality, right? So in every airfield, in every MSA is operated
Mm-hmm.
differently, right?
Yes.
So in my backyard, in our sandbox, again in Colorado, within a 50-mile radius, we have 4 or 5 fairly decent GA airports, and they are all run very differently. All right, so you have facilities or operations at one airfield, and you're familiar with how that operates, or we're familiar with how that operates. It's totally different across the street,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or it can be. So we will deal with the government entity at that level, the municipality, whether there's an airport board and however that is run and whoever's making those decisions. The airfield that our office sits at actually splits 2 counties. So you've got commissioners that you're
On both
dealing
sides,
with, right?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so you there are politics in play, obviously. A lot of it, to be honest with you, from our side, it's educating the general public and commissioners of the importance of an airfield
Right.
run the right way. And in our airfield where we're located specifically, 21 years ago, it was on the downward spiral. And then the airport director came in, turned it around, and now it's one of the top busiest airfields in the nation. And so, what we, from our perspective, it's educating the community, staying in contact with the airport. Our biggest challenge as brokers on the real estate side, and it's a good thing, and it's a negative as well. There aren't comps, right? So a lot of we're still in the kind of Wild West era as far as real estate on an airfield, because of the good old boy network or good old girl network. And a lot of the hangars transact just by word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Well, as brokers and really we're advisors, we're advocates for our clients, we have a responsibility to bring them the highest and best for their product. Well, we can't really do that if we're not involved. And so a hangar owner or someone that has a lease on a facility, he knows a guy or girl that has a need, and they just transact on their own. Well, are they doing that at the market rates? And so we're trying to bring consistency into that market that has never existed before, which means educating the community why it's good. So when we within the last 6 or 8 months, we transacted a small little T hangar in our home airfield, and it transacted at one of the highest per square foot prices of any other facility in Colorado for sure. That got people's attention, meaning, I didn't know I could get that much for it, right? And so when we do something like that, then we kind of it's the ripple effect. And it little by little, it's helping educate the marketplace, if you will.
Yeah. Well, we see that.
I was going to say, this sounds just completely familiar to
on a daily basis.
Us in the airplane sales business.
I think last 3 airplanes, last 4 maybe, we've talked to these folks who they think that their airplane is worth such and such, and we're like, I think we can get. In fact, I know we can get a lot more out of that. And So that's the value that the broker brings in. Clearly, is having that insider knowledge
Yep.
and seeing what's going on. So if you have, tell me if I'm wrong here, but you got somebody that's wanting to build something on an airport or wanting to develop. It would seem that maybe before they do anything, before they contact anyone, before they start ruffling anybody's feathers, unintentionally, maybe even with some municipalities and the like, you guys would be the first ones to go to and say, hey, how do we do this smartly so that we can get through the wickets nice and straight and not have to, is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. We have that conversation every day of the week.
Oh,
That is our large. That is the main conversation that we're having. We treat every relationship, every deal, every opportunity as if it's ours. It's personal, and for a few reasons. One, we have a reputation to uphold. This is a very small industry, right? I mean, it doesn't take much. And one of the things I love about the aviation space is, it weeds the people that should be in it or the operators that should be in it fairly quickly, right? Now, on the flip side of that is the winds shift pretty quickly, and that can affect even the operators that should stay in the industry. The perfect scenario is they reach out to us, say it's an FBO, a national operator that has a gap in an MSA where they want a presence.
Explain what is an MSA. I want to stop.
It's the area around like we're in where are we? We're in Kansas City.
Is that like a metropolitan statistical area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
just want to make sure people understood.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. So in these markets, so let's say they're looking at, they have a demand or a gap there.
Mm-hmm.
The perfect scenario is they reach out to us. We feed that into our consulting department, where we can do some analysis, feasibility studies, identify if that's a good move for them. Right. I mean, it's not our capital. Generally, we're advising. At the end of the day, it's their decision. But we want to give them all of the information so they can make the best decision possible, because they're going to have capital they're going to deploy, they're going to have investors, they're going to have expectations on returns. So understanding what their objective is, our role is to help them mitigate as many risks as possible. All right. And so once we do that to the consulting side, then it moves over into our pre-development services or dev services. And that's where we can help with feasibility or the entitlements, design, all of the processes for highest and best use to meet their operational needs, right? And every operator has different needs, right? Whether it's MRO or FBO. I hope it's okay to say those terms. If you need me to explain, I will.
No, that's okay.
Yeah,
I just want
I
to make,
think
because we don't know
people
who's listening necessarily. So I think most folks, MRO, just explain what it is.
Maintenance repair operator.
Okay.
So they're the oil and lube guys, in the back of the house, and which are very critical, obviously, to the operations. And then you have the FBO, fixed base operators, which, as we're sitting here at Atlantic, they're the front of the house. They're going to take care of all your needs up front. So we can help them turnkey. That's our goal. And then as let's say that the facility is developed or acquired, then where we come in on the real estate side or broker side is now we can help place tenants if it's a multi-tenant facility, or they need to sublet certain space, we can help them with that, understanding what the market rates are, what the market rates should be, because generally what happens at an airfield is someone picks up the phone, they call their buddy down the ramp or taxiing lane and go, hey, what are you doing? What's your guy paying? And that's not necessarily how we like to do things, right? We want to have a little bit more scientific approach to it. And that's where we pull into apn.aero, our website, where we have the largest database, probably the only database of properties that have transacted across the country in various markets, right? So going back to Colorado, where our headquarters are, we've got these various markets. Rates are going to be different depending on what's going on at that airfield. I was just on a call this morning and we were talking about that, what one airfield is doing and can command versus another airfield, because we have to let our clients know what they can achieve, what the expectations can be. So.
Right. Okay.
Well, we didn't get on. I was going to ask, because we kind of went right into talking more about APN, but your background, were you in real estate before you got into aviation, or are you a pilot or anything along those lines? That
I'm struggling to get my pilot's license. Pilot.
And then so you were in real estate.
Yeah. So my family, I come from a family of real estate developers.
Okay.
So it is unfortunately in my blood.
That's not unfortunate.
Well, it's what I know, and every day we learn a little bit more. Right? Aviation is a very specific asset class, but yeah, my grandfather and my father were real estate developers.
Okay.
So we're here with Will Mace of the Airport Property Network. Do me a favor, Will. Give your phone number and your website again right here, so that people can, if they want to unplug and start looking you up real quick, they know what that is.
Absolutely. Well, my cell is 805-896-0886, and I answer it all the time. So I'm on the phone a lot, as Erica probably knows. I'm easiest to find on LinkedIn, Will Mace. My email is will@BA, as in Business Aviation Group.aero, AERO. But LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect and dialogue.
Okay, good. So the question I wanted to ask before that little interlude there is, do you guys deal much with the government side of things when they're looking at developing, starting an airport, or they've got this property they want to develop, and do you find yourself being contacted by them as a first step, as opposed to the businesses contacting you? Does that make sense? So they're like here in Kansas City, this airport, I think 70% of it's more or less locked up by signature,
right?
And the leaseholds that they have on it from years ago. So, but let's say that it's a clean slate.
Mm-hmm.
The city has something that they want to do with that property. So Todd's on the airport board at another local airport, and let's say that they want to develop this property, but given their limited knowledge, they know what's going on there. Do you deal much with those folks? We'll say, hey, let's call these guys and see how we can best approach this to maximize our own revenue and the opportunity for growth.
Absolutely. Sometimes it isn't as clean of a direct line as that. We'd like it to be.
Yes.
Obviously, that we want everyone to understand what we do and the services that we can provide, or we do provide. Generally, it's more of a stumbled process. So the commissioners or somebody within the airport, or someone on the board has a need. Well, they want to attract. Generally, they want to attract to developers, right? Because they're going to need third-party capital to come in, right? But they're also going to have to educate the community as to why they should be operating there, why they should bring their money to the airfield. So that's challenge number one. Generally, the airport does not have the resources, staffing, right? They usually don't have a real estate team that's helping them, guide them. That's where we come in, and brokers like Erica, is they have that. Erica's going to have the regional, local knowledge that is going to be able to facilitate the needs of the airfield and help guide them, right? Because just because somebody wants something doesn't mean it's the best thing and it's advisable. And so where we come in is, let's say, your reference here at the airfield, if they've got land that can be leased up for development, then what will happen is they'll reach out they'll make their way to us because they want to advertise somehow, right? And so we're an advertising platform, right? Signature, you go on, you look at all of our FBOs and MROs that we deal with, we're getting the word on the street for them. What we do is when we hear that they have an opportunity, then we look at that not only for ourselves as a development opportunity, but also for our other investors and groups that we know may have a need for that airfield. And so it goes back to understanding what the needs are of our clients. So then when Erica calls up and says, hey, we have this opportunity here, this RFP's coming out, I probably know a few operators that might be a good fit for that. Mm-hmm. Because, again, it goes back to fulfilling their needs. And then if we're able to do that, everybody wins. Mm-hmm. Erica gets a client, a long-lasting relationship. She can bring her local knowledge to that. That's what we do across the nation.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here and I'm kind of awed and just thinking, extrapolating out the experience just within you three, because I'm just an airplane junkie or flunky or however you want to look at it, but you look at the experience and the knowledge that you must have in that network. So, Erica is a broker, but she's also a commissioner for our county zoning commission. Todd's on the airport advisory board. He's also through the Air National Guard, had lots of experience working directly with the state when he was at the state level in Jefferson City. And so you've probably got a lot of folks like that around that, it gets down to, you don't know what you don't know. Right. And when you see some of these other folks that are part of this network and the resources that you can tap into, you can't Google this kind of stuff. You've got to have those kind of people that know what they're talking about.
And you have to put yourself out there. You have to be involved. You guys are involved at your capacity, right? Well, just like I was on the plane coming out last night, and I got a call from a commissioner asking a question about a specific opportunity, right? I want those open lines of communication. And it's great for Eric and I because there are only a handful of people in the country that do what we do. Mm-hmm. So we have an incredible audience, right? So getting plugged into your, like, we're going to go to KCBAA, right? After this, a meeting, Kansas City Business Aviation Association meeting. Those are the perfect networks to be involved with because you have an audience of people that have needs, whether they're business needs or they just need a T hangar or a shared hangar for a small aircraft. Who do they have to go to? Nobody. Generally, the first call is someone at the airfield or at the in the admin office. Then maybe to the FBO. The FBO is not generally going to be a whole lot of help on that. Because they want the big fuel burners sitting in their hangar, right? That's how they stay viable. Now, real estate is becoming more as aircraft become more fuel efficient. The real estate is becoming more of an issue, right? So the FBOs, facility owners now understand they need to be able to get their rate that they need one way or another, right? And now we're starting to see a trend. Unfortunately, in my opinion, with assessors looking at what they can charge or what they should be charging for real estate taxes on airfield. And that's going to be something, well, that is something that we are dealing with right now. And I would encourage, if you're involved with your regional NBAA, that's a conversation I think that needs to happen every meeting because that will affect all of us. Assessors not understanding how to tax these special properties. A lot of times they will apply a commercial tax. So fee simple real estate off airport, they're looking at on airport the same, and it is absolutely not, right?
Not at all.
Because you don't own the product at the end, right? You're borrowing it basically, you're leasing it, and so that's something that we're looking at right now. We're seeing it in Colorado, and I imagine like everything else, all the communities look to see how they can generate more revenues. So that's something that we want to stay in front of.
Yeah, we're seeing that with even we've talked to people recently who've had airplane. Seems the state here in Missouri is getting much more aggressive on pursuing airplane tax things and. It's a
because
similar
of the demand,
yes,
right? I mean, look what's happened certainly since COVID, right? So
right.
we got 2.5 years now. They're going to get their money somehow, right?
Well, sure.
And they see that demand, and now they're able to. They're looking at how they can monetize that.
Yeah.
It's no longer a hidden secret.
No, and there's a low hanging fruit element to that where it gets to the point of it's probably a little off topic, but the point where it's they're seen as the people with the money and they can go after them, and you have states like Missouri, for example, who this just passed a 74% increase in the budget year over year. It's astronomical. Well, that money's got to come from somewhere, and so. They're not looking just at us. They're looking everywhere they can look to get that money.
Yeah, I had a council member a few months back make a comment to me in the conversation of the assessed fees. They said, "Well, I guess if you own a private aircraft, you should be able to pay it, and you should pay it." And that mindset, to me, I think that's a cancer.
It is,
and so vote wisely. But Looking at, in my opinion, or my group's opinion, the airfield is the heartbeat of the community.
Yes.
Educating, we're seeing a push with housing development, right? So encroachment closer and closer to the airfield. Whether you sign in the escrow papers that you're aware that you live in the certain proximity to the airfield, you're seeing coalitions create momentum for noise complaints. Right, so the commissioners hear the noise complaints. They go to the airport board, and they say, "Look, my constituents, they're not happy." Well, the developer built the houses within, and they were aware, but still that pressure doesn't end, right? So you have airfields under threat because of that. But educating the community and the politicians of how vital it is for the airfield.
I think there's probably one more step you could add to just the education of the community and the politicians, is that if you're involved in aviation, you therefore should be involved in your local government.
Absolutely.
Because nothing is better than getting in and knowing these people and networking with these people and being a voice for the aviation community. I think it's important. So, and that's a lot of reason I get involved with stuff because,
as you should.
I love to fly, and I don't want it taken away.
Well, and it's so incredible to watch the growth in our industry over the last couple of years.
Sure.
And it's on the real estate side, going back to that piece, there was a number of years, say over the last 20, 30 years, where very little inventory was added to that asset class, right? We didn't have a lot of, the demand wasn't there like it was when COVID hit, people, taking time off and going back after their PPL, and then, what did a 182 cost before COVID, and what does a 182 cost now, right? Yeah, and so looking at that, which is incredible, it's great, but we also need to keep it in perspective, and now with the inventory that's coming online, we have higher development costs now. What would have cost in the high 80s, $90 a square foot, we're looking at the same product. You're looking at $150, $160 a square foot. Someone pays for that. Now we need the inventory. We're very, just like housing, we're behind on the inventory for these aircraft. And in fact, I was on the call with my associate this morning. Number of aircraft coming on in 2024, there's no facilities for them, right? Yeah. And so the new inventory costing more. So you've got the old guard of the GA community that is used to paying $250 a month for their spot in their hangar or their T hangar. Well, that same product, new, they're going to be paying $850 to $900, regardless of where it's located. That's just the reality. Now, does that make the local contingency of the GA community happy, which has generally the heaviest voice or the loudest voice at the board meetings? That's why it's so important for us on the other side to be involved, to not push back on that, but to educate. We all want the growth of the aviation to continue because it's important for our community.
Yeah, it reminds me of something. Todd and I have this little joke that all paths lead back to Enid, Oklahoma. And so I'm going to talk about this for just a second. Erica, of course, is from Enid, and I was in Enid for a long time. And Todd's got a son that's an instructor down in Enid, and so we've had a number of things. But one of the things that in advocacy that town did right a number of years ago, back in the 90s, when the base realignment and closure commissions were going through and identifying military facilities for closure. Enid hired its own lobbyist, and they were the only municipality in the country at the time to have a lobbyist that they paid directly to lobby on behalf of that base, Vance Air Force Base, because that was the economic driver there in Enid. And so Crusher Craigie, he was a wing commander, he was the first guy that had an office in Washington, and so he lobbied on behalf because, not unlike an airport like this, you get that NIMBY crowd, the not in my backyard crowd that they don't, they're happy to have the economic benefits and the convenience, but they don't want the noise or all these other silly irrational things. And so and Enid at the time also was developing, along with the county, a number of building code regulations where all new construction, I believe, had to have 6-inch walls. They had to have double pane windows, and they had to do all these other things
to mitigate the sound.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to have to, and people had to sign on their contracts that it had to include. That there's an Air Force base in this community. They don't want people coming along saying, well, shoot, I'm liking all this, and I'm loving the convenience and the fact that the base brings in all this economic development. But gosh, that I don't like being woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
They were proactive.
They were
which
very
is
proactive. Very proactive.
Yeah, and I think we as aviators and in the aviation community need to get involved so that we are proactive, not behind the 8 ball, as Chris likes to say.
Don't you think there's a failure sometimes to understand, talking about noise complaints,
Sure.
as though that the airport's a large employer in many
Yeah.
cases. There's a lot of business. People lose track. Never mind the whole harder to quantify, although it is quantifiable to a degree, the economic impact an airport has in a given community. And that word has to get out. And that comes back to your comment, Erica, about being involved.
It's imperative to be involved.
Yes.
If you have a passion for it and you're not involved,
Protect it.
yeah, that makes me sad. But you look around a community, and so often you don't look up necessarily. You're
Right.
looking forward, and so you hear the engines, right? You hear what's going on. But if you're not involved in it daily, you're just not aware.
Right.
And I think it's those of us that are involved. It's imperative that we help the politicians and the supervisors understand why it's so critical. How many times have you brought a commissioner or somebody at the political level that you have a connection with to the airfield? Show them around. Take them behind the curtain,
Mhm.
right? Go in the hangar, an MRO, or help them understand all the layers, and then have them look at the employee parking lot and the
Mhm.
employee break room, so they can then have an emotional connection that it's a heartbeat. That it's just like any other. They go to get their oil change. Someone does it for them, right, in their car.
Mhm.
Same as at an airfield. They just don't understand it generally because they get on a commercial flight. They go to MCI or KCI now, or
It's still
Yeah,
NCI, but
yeah,
yeah,
whatever, whatever your identity
Yeah.
crisis is. But so they don't have that emotional connection, I don't believe. But if we're able to bring them in and so they can see, then they can start having that. Now they're more educated.
Mhm.
They can start having that conversation with their constituents and the people on the other side, which is so important.
Right.
And I think that's a barrier that we've had, is we just aren't bringing them to the field, right? To take them up on a discovery flight. Right?
Yeah.
Treat it as a source of pride. Your airport should be a source of pride
Absolutely.
in your hometown.
And I think you touched on something a minute ago that I want to come back on, and that is I think we need to have a commonality in the voice of an airport.
Mhm.
So it's one thing to have a smaller, purely light airplane airport, but something else like downtown Kansas City where we are here, it's a different scenario because we have light sport airplanes based here. We have G5s based here.
Yeah.
And so there's a wide range,
And
and plus we have a lot of charter aircraft coming in here. So the sports teams, the airlines still bring airplanes in here. And, and when people are kind of in their own isolated little world, especially on some of the smaller airplane stuff, they tend to not understand what the bigger guys bring to the picture. And sometimes they think, oh, it's going to make prices go up or whatever. Of course, one of the biggest complaints people have is I went over to that facility and, they charged me a ramp fee. Well, who do you think pays for that facility?
Right.
And we've got to get over that mindset that because we like to fly and because it's our passion, that it ought to be cheap and free. That too is a cancer because it's not healthy.
Right.
And I think we all need to understand that. And likewise, from the top down, they need to say, hey, those guys aren't a nuisance if flying around their little airplanes. Let's all work together because we can make this work as one unified voice going against the NIMBY crowd or against the politicians who see development opportunity that does not include an airport.
I think I might be the oddball here because I actually like living underneath the final approach path for MCI, and because I grew up in Enid, Oklahoma, I would lay out in the backyard and the T-38s and the Tweets would fly over, and I love them. So I have a different appreciation for it. They're not a nuisance. They're a beautiful sound, and I can still identify a 38 when it comes over my house. I will run out and find it.
This is probably not the appropriate time to bring up how you were laying out in your
I know.
bathing suit and Chris was rolled inverted. You gotta try that. We're not going to talk about that story right now.
So
it's fun.
I do want to ask though. You mentioned a little bit about your partners in the business. Can you elaborate a little bit on who those folks are, if you're comfortable doing that?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's 3 partners. Ivor Retram, David Vaughn. So Ivor Retram is with me in Denver. David Vaughn's in McKinney, Texas area, and then Barry Sherman as well in Colorado. And so they all have different lanes that they kind of focus on. David Vaughn is he spent many years with Signature Flight Support on the FBOs, very heavily integrated in the operational side of the business. Barry Sherman, as he likes to say, is a recovering architect, went to the dark side of development on the private side. So very in tune with facilities, space planning, layout, works very closely with all of our FBO clients on their space needs and design needs. And then development oversight. Ivor's background is he was with Signature for a number of years as well, and is heavily on the real estate side with me.
Okay.
All fantastic people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
an
just
incredible.
fantastic human beings.
Thank you. I'm fortunate to be with a good group of we have a great team, and
You're fantastic too. I'm sorry
thank
to include you in that.
No.
So.
I as I mentioned earlier, I'm at the back of the bus, and but I've got a great vantage point of watching their experience, and they truly. I don't know of another firm in the real estate that we focus on aviation and the needs that we fulfill that can do a better job.
How did you meet those guys?
This world is pretty small, the aviation side.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was in a position that I wanted. I was kind of tired of developing real estate and dealing with the elements that come with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to take what my skills were on the real estate and development side, and I wanted to be in aviation. It literally is as simple as that.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Interesting.
Helped a company start up early on, and they didn't quite cut it, and then that led me into there's only a few of us that do what we do here in the nation, right? So as you know,
yeah.
So,
right.
So what's neat is I enjoy the opportunity to network with people and to build connections and see where things go. So what's interesting is Eric and I met Will not even a year ago. Todd, you were there too, I think, at Oshkosh, and we were hosting an event for Challenge Air for Kids and Friends. So David and I used to serve on the board at Challenge Air.
David Vaughn.
So
David
that's
Vaughn,
that's why you guys came over to that event because David
I came for the
there.
free beer.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was there too. So.
Yeah, so that was kind of neat because you just never know how things are going to turn out. But David came over to support that thing and that we were doing and Challenge Air, which is great. And so anyway, but
I think standing there at that table at Oshkosh, you guys are telling me what you do, and I'm sitting here thinking, hello.
I could see the lights going
I
off.
am a broker in Kansas and Missouri.
Yeah. Your eyes lit up.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
Well, I love it.
Well, I think, too, in this conversation, we've kind of established a lot of similarities that go on from what Chris and I do, brokering airplanes, and how there's a lot of similarities in what you're doing.
Your relationship, right?
And also, you're helping on different angles, whether you're helping someone sell an airplane, someone buy an airplane, just offering consulting of some sort. You guys have multiple capabilities that could be tapped into.
We're advisors.
Sure.
All of us at this table, that's what we are, right?
Yeah.
And in our industry, relationships are critical. And I've been so fortunate to be able to connect with some incredible people over the in this industry. And if you do what you say you're going to do, That's all it takes. It's
There
that
you go.
simple.
Yeah,
right?
in any
Yep.
business, really.
Well, and specifically here in
Yeah.
aviation, I mean, it's, you know, it weeds out the ones that aren't honorable and don't live up to, you know, if you're going to say you're going to do it, just follow through and do it.
Just do it.
It goes miles,
It does.
Yeah.
right?
It sure does. So, Will, as we close out here, any last thoughts? Anything that you wanted to bring up that we haven't already talked about?
You know, we talked about it briefly, but I would just say if you're in aviation, if you have a passion, go to your board meetings. Every
Yes.
airport has a board meeting every month, generally speaking. Get involved. You know, whether it's your town council, but at minimum, you know, go to the airport board meeting so you're aware. You can then be an advocate.
Mm-hmm.
You can listen in. You can, if you hear something that isn't going the direction, because it's so community heavy. And if you're not involved at that level, especially in our world that we live in, everyone in that room should know who we are, because they have a need that we can satisfy. They need us. They just don't necessarily know it.
It's that they don't know
They
because
don't.
they don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
And that
That's
goes
exactly
for
right.
anywhere
Yep,
in the real
yep,
estate
it's
industry.
very
So.
familiar.
So did you have something else?
No,
Okay.
actually, yes, I do. Huh. Economic development boards too, I think, are a good place to go and make sure you're paying attention to the heartbeat of what's going on in your community, whatever community that is, and be an advocate for the aviation industry there.
That, you know, I actually
Yeah.
think that is equally as important.
Sure.
And the reason, and every community is a little different on their EDC,
Yeah.
or whatever the acronym they call it, but they have a need as well. They
Mm-hmm.
want those jobs. They want to be able to funnel,
Mhm.
but they don't know who to call.
Right.
Now they know to call
Because
Erica
they don't
Kirk.
know, they don't know.
Yes,
Yeah, call
right.
Erica Kirk
Yeah.
at Wild Blue Properties.
Yeah.
Go ahead and throw out your
Sure.
number.
My number is 816-729-0876, and that is my cell phone number. If I don't answer, leave a message. I will call you back. Or you can reach me at Erica, spelled like America, at propertiesbywildblue.com. That's Erica at propertiesbywildblue.com.
So if you're looking at airport development in the Kansas, Missouri areas specifically, give Eric a call.
Or
and-
anywhere, and
or
I will
anywhere.
get you
and she can
connected.
connect.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's
I will
exactly
absolutely
right.
get you connected because
Yeah.
we have affiliate brokers all over the country, and I suspect eventually all over the world. Just saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Wherever
We'll
there's
take over the
facilities,
world.
yeah. And we're so excited that you're on part of our team.
Yeah.
So,
And so far I love it. I've met a lot of the people and just fantastic group of people.
yes, I agree.
Yeah. So,
So,
thank
Will,
you
your
very
contact
much.
information one more time?
Yeah, so find me on LinkedIn, Will Mace, and that's where I probably spend most of my time. Email will at BA Group, businessaviationgroup.aero, cell 805-896-0886, and I text like a 12-year-old, so which is a lot.
Yeah. Same here.
Okay.
Same here.
Well, Todd, thanks for being here. Will, thank you. Erica, thank you. And
You're
again,
so
a big
welcome.
shout out to Ben Moore and his team here at Atlantic Aviation. They're on the west side of the downtown airport here in Kansas City.
It's an incredible
Yeah.
facility.
It's a great
Fantastic.
facility. They're
Yeah.
great people, and we really appreciate their support. They're next to the general aviation terminal if you're kind of looking for that area with the self-serve pump. So, in any case, thanks so much for listening to the Wild Blue podcast. Make sure you share and give us some good reviews. We'd certainly appreciate that as well.
Thanks for listening to the Wild Blue Podcast. Find us online at flywildblue.com. And don't forget to subscribe and share.